If you are a YouTuber, brand, or creator that just wants longevity on the platform, and as YouTube evolves, you're trying to figure out what are the most important things that you need to consider, this live stream is for you. I'm really excited because I've almost been on YouTube for, man, 20 plus years. It's so crazy to think that in October, it will be October 5th in 2005 is when I discovered YouTube. And it's been quite the journey. Now, one thing that I've seen over the course of my career, I've seen creators come and creators go, and creators not really see, hey, this is an ever evolving process. And then two, as technology, as things come out, things actually change a little bit and you have to analyze and adjust. And so for me, I'm really grateful to come on today and have someone that I can have a conversation with that really gets it and really has seen kind of the evolution of not only his channel, but things that he had to try a little bit differently that I know is going to inspire you. Now, if you're new to me, my name is Daryl Eves, and I am obsessed with YouTube. As you can see behind me, I've generated over 110 billion video views on YouTube. I've started 34 channels to get them over 1 million subscribers each. And then I've also worked with the biggest creators on the planet and brands on the planet. And I've really helped people like you achieve success on YouTube. And I really love helping people. I really love mentoring people. And today I'm joined by someone that I can honestly say I met and I was always in awe, not only because of his video content, because I've seen his video content, but just his essence. And I'm just really excited to have a discussion here with NickPro. Hey, Nick, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Dude, I'll be honest with you. When I heard that we were gonna meet, I'm like, oh, this is really cool because my son showed me one of your videos. Would you just take a second and kind of explain what you do? Because some people might not know what you do, and would love to know what kind of you do on YouTube.
So I'm a professional parkour athlete, and I was always finding a way to try to turn that into a full-time job and income. And so about 8 years ago, I started making videos on YouTube to try to make it full-time. And I make a lot of videos using my parkour, acrobatics and whatnot, where I recreate stunts from movies or do other challenges that involve my flips and my skills.
Yeah, and it's really cool because I remember early on when you know we were in Utah. We have a lot of collaborations, and there's a lot of people. There was one person that was doing some parkour that my son was just obsessed with. Is you know, and we're seeing kind of him do stuff and his Ronnie Street stunts, and really cool to watch kind of that that world. And then too, I got really super fascinated with this sport because my son loves it, loves to kind of do the flips and kind of run and do the whole thing, and it's really a challenging sport. I mean, there's so much that's going on. Some people are like, what? Why would they even do that? Like, why would they do these flips off of this mountain or this this building or whatever that may be? And it's really cool that you're not only able to do something that you love, but you're able to share this with the world. So really big question first is when did you like, I think I want to kind of get like have a timeline of how everything unfolded. So like what inspired you to get into parkour, and then what led you to start posting on YouTube?
So my friend showed me about 18 years ago the first ever parkour video on YouTube. The platform was like very young back
Yeah,
then. You were already on it, but
yeah,
still,
yeah.
it was a video called Russian Climber, but it was just
Dude,
some
I
guy
remember
doing.
that video. Oh my gosh.
It got me in the sport. Like he showed me a YouTube video. That's how what started it all. And it was just some guy in the slums of like Russia and like the
Yeah.
ghetto doing flips off the buildings and stuff. And the athlete was called Oleg Vorslov. And later that day, I was doing flips on my trampoline, and my friend was like, "Oh, do it off of your deck, just like in the video." I was 14, and I didn't think twice about it. I just tried it, and I got it. I got hooked.
You know, That's so funny. I didn't know that that was the first parkour video, but I remember how insane it was because, like, before then, you're like, oh, you see these little cat videos and snowboarding videos, and you have all this other stuff, and then every once in a while, you see something that's just insane, right? You see something that's insane, and I remember seeing that, and he was jumping from building to building on that, and then he was going up buildings. I'm like, what am I watching? You know, is this just like the real life Spider-Man? Like what was going on? But so you got inspired by that, and then how quickly did you like, hey, I'm gonna start posting content. I'm gonna start putting, you know, my tricks on YouTube as well.
So technically, I think the first video I ever posted was on another channel, and 2007. So maybe 2 years after, when I had like a few more tricks down because I had just started parkour back then. But there was no motive behind it. It wasn't to try and get
Right.
famous or anything. I just wanted to share it with my friends. That was the whole purpose why I started posting. I wanted to show them my achievements, what I was proud of. And video, like on YouTube, was just the best way back then.
And then I would assume that people were kind of encouraging you, and then you were kind of reading some of the comments. You're like, "Oh man, this is so cool," you know. And it's just like, maybe I should do some more. When did you like say, "Okay, this is it. I'm going to start a YouTube channel. I'm going to post more frequently." Like when did that shift occur?
So the official shift was 2017, and I had a conversation with another friend while we were just at the gym training, like our flips and whatnot. We were both big fans of like YouTube and the culture and everything, and we're like, you know what? Like, why don't we just actually make a conscious effort and try to become like YouTubers, right?
Yeah.
And so from that moment on, we were like forcing ourselves to post like at least once a week. He was doing like 3 a week. I was doing 2 a week, and it was consistent. Like it wasn't like an option. It was like we were at the gym. I was like, all right, what are we filming tonight? And during open gym, which is 9 to 11 p.m., we would wait after hours to be able to film and film from like 11:30 to 2 in the morning.
Oh
That
wow.
was our grind. And then wake up the next day, edit and post. And like we were on that grind for like 6 months.
So were you helping each other out? So you're kind of capturing footage for each other, but then also, let's see, if it was 2017, was it even the GoPro there yet? What I can't even remember. Like, it's all blurring
Yeah.
together when cameras come out or whatever it is. I would assume that the GoPro is definitely there. But what? So you had someone helping you. What was some of the things that you learn by this? Because I mean, I think a lot of people when they first start, it's like you. It's like after hours, staying up late. You know, I would assume you're doing your own editing and stuff like that. Like, so you're trying to get everything out very consistently. What was it? What was it like during that time in your life?
So without like even knowing, I was pretty much implementing your system. So like, well, not fully, but
Hey,
like, we would make videos, and then from there we would gather data and adjust, which is
that's
something you talk about all the time, right?
yeah, yeah.
So without data, like you're never going to start with perfection, and I'm never going to achieve perfection, but we just started off gathering data, like what would work, what doesn't work, and why, and like take a step back to analyze which videos would work and why not, and do a lot of research and recon to see what trends were working and why and stuff. So it was just like a lot of research and just adjusting our techniques. And my content looks completely different than it did back then.
Yeah. So after hours, you're doing some late night shoots, early morning shoots, just because you have the gym, and then you had someone that you could actually talk YouTube with. You actually had someone that you were helping them, they were helping you. So there's some synergy there. I always found that that's really important. A lot of the bigger creators always had someone to talk YouTube with. They weren't trying to do it on their own. There was like people around them that was encouraging them and say, "Oh, have you seen this?" or "Have you tried this?" or whatever. And I think that leader helps you kind of not only have some encouragement, but also there's that synergy of let's try bigger, let's go whatever. And so you had that. When was the moment that you're like, okay, this is interesting. Maybe let's do less of what I'm doing day to day, and then two, let's go more all in. Was it hitting a certain subscriber amount? Was it hitting something where you're like, oh, okay, I finally replaced my income, or what was that? What was that level?
So personally, I like I was pretty much all in. So I was already self-employed in different ways. So it gave me the freedom to not quit. I was like making and selling lightsabers and
Yeah.
stuff from scratch with the electronics.
So okay, so now I know the connection here of why we like each other so much is because like
Yeah.
you're like literally making your own lightsabers. Man. That's so awesome.
Yeah. So I was always trying to find ways to be self-employed. So I had that kind of freedom, and the lightsaber business was doing really good. But then in December of 2017, I had 100,000 subscribers from long form. And that was like, oh, wow, this is so much more efficient than the other business. That's when I was like, all right, like, I'm all in, like, because it was also December, so high RPM month and whatnot. So
Yeah.
that was when I was all in.
But I think if you're kind of have all these hustles going on and happening, it's just like where do you put your focus? And you probably put a lot of focus towards what's bringing in the money, and then two, the moment that you make the leap, that's a really hard decision for a lot of people because I've helped, as you're well aware of, I've helped a lot of creators over the course of my career. And it's like, when do I go all in, and what's going to happen next? And in fact, I had a bunch of YouTubers at my house yesterday, and we had the exact conversation with someone else. They actually have I wouldn't say a full-time job, but they have a job that they do. They're already making a ton of money in so many different ways. And it's like, okay, when do we go on this next one? And it's just like, man, there's always questions of when to put all your energy into something. And I found that the earlier that you can feel comfortable in doing it, the more freedom that you actually have to create. Because even though that you had all these side things going on and you're going from there, because I know as soon as the moment you're like, okay, we're doing this, that's when your content just elevates. It's just like, oh, you're putting all your energy towards this, and you see that transition. And so how quickly, because you had 100,000 subscribers about that time when you decided to do that, how quickly did you start seeing improvement in your content just because you're all focused in on it?
So I started being focused like even before that, when I had that conversation with my friend, and it was instant, because
Yep.
before that it was not intentional. Well, not instant, but like it was very obvious that like there was like a difference in the content and stuff. Before that, I was just making parkour videos without an intention. It was just like, oh, here's a compilation of tricks. It's entertaining, but there's not really a reason for people to watch it. Where after that, yeah, it's not just about like, there was no story, there was no like reason to stand till the end. For most people, it's just like, oh, here's a backflip, another backflip, cool.
Yeah.
So it was once we started being intentional, like it's of course, like after a couple months, after 6 month, that was really like, okay, I'm able to sustain myself, like start saving up, paying rent, all that stuff. But even before that, it only took a couple of months for it to really like be visible. And sometimes it just takes one video. And yeah.
Well, I want to digest what you just said, because I think this is probably one of the most valuable things that anyone has said in these live streams. And the reason why I feel like it's valuable is because sometimes creators miss it. And in your mind, you thought, oh, people want to see me flip, and they want to see the next thing, and they're going to comment and, oh, do this, right? And so you have that, but it's more about the intentionality of the why. Like, what's going on? What's the storyline here? What's that one little element? And it doesn't need to be that in depth. on it, but it was like, how do you take it from just oh, that was a cool reaction type moment that you captured, but now it means something to me, and when you did that, was it more difficult to create the content, or was it a little bit easier to create the content once you're starting to bring in a why, like a story behind it, instead of just doing random flips and tricks on that?
Back then, it was way like it became easier to make content because to make a parkour video with like high level of skills could take me months and whatnot because I wanted a compilation of tricks that I was proud of, and each trick would take hundreds of attempts. But then after that, like I can get millions or potentially hundreds of thousands of views back then off a video that I filmed in 2-3 hours because it was intentional. There was a reason for them to stay until the end or something, rather than just a compilation that they might get clicked out. They might click out at any point. It's like it's very hard in the parkour world. Like there's so many impressive athletes jumping from building to building that people are almost not as impressed easily anymore. So when you can actually get like an emotional connection, a reason to stay until the end rather than just rely on shock and awe, I find that it was more like effective for me, at least.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you said a couple things that I want to reiterate a little bit, where you felt maybe earlier on that you needed to level up and do more extreme things, and then two, you had to get them right, and so it's going to take more time, just regardless of what it is. And yeah, you want to push yourself as an athlete, and you want to go do things, but is that sustainable? When you really look at it, it's like, okay, is that really sustainable? Because every time you do a video, is it going to go from there? And so that I think every creator should ask it: is it sustainable? And then two, what's your unique value proposition? Because if the unique value proposition is shock and awe every time, in the sense of that moment, then there is going to be a time that you can't go any further, or something crazy is going to happen that everyone's going to regret, right? So, like, especially in your world. And so for me, I always like to look at what would be one of the most epic videos of all time, and it's something that connects to you, and then there's surprise and delight. And I think that's what I love about your content, is you're able to weave in some surprise and delight, because you don't necessarily see it coming. Sometimes you're like, oh, I wonder how he's going to do. Oh, okay, there he goes. You have kind of that moment from there. And so I think all content creators struggle with this at times. It's like, okay, I got to go bigger. I got to go bigger. I got to go bigger, and I do believe that is, can be a misstep for most people. I think it works in some scenarios. But I do believe it's like, how do you connect with people better? Just to know, Nick, I had no idea that you made lightsabers, and I guarantee you people in the comments goes, oh my gosh, I didn't know he did that, or whatever. And I've now connected with that as well, because I'm a Star Wars fan, geek, whatever. I love it too, right? But it's just like, it's that human connection that can make up for so much, because that's where loyalty comes in, is with connections. Spectacles will get the view. I guarantee spectacles get the view, but loyalty comes through storytelling. Loyalty comes through connection. And so that's where I love to see, because I think people can have one-offs, where they have that one-off video that is such the spectacle, but to have consistency and loyalty, there needs to be more than just that, So anyway, yeah, that's so great. So you're on that journey, and you started to figure out, okay, what do we need to do next? Like, you're starting to understand storylines. When did it get interesting for you? Was it more the more consistent you were putting out contents there, and then I noticed that you kind of had some explosive growth, right? Not shortly after you started to post, become full time, but it was around 2019, 2020. There's a lot that was going on. Do you want to kind of talk through that kind of growth of your channel where you're at?
Yeah, over time I started to continue to adjust my technique and what I was doing with videos, and I did something that was like both good and like not good for my channel. It was great for views, but it's a little bit what we were just talking about. So what I did is a lot of I have videos where I recreate tricks that superheroes or anime characters do, and I have some that got like quite a few views because I removed the talking in it. So,
Mm-mm.
which made me reach a broader audience because different audio tracks, dubbing, and whatnot wasn't available like 6 years ago or so.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was reaching a broader audience by making a viral video, but then by not talking, I removed the connection with my audience. So the audience was just there for the viral video, but then they weren't like sticking around because they weren't there for me. They were just there for like, oh, cool, he's doing the same tricks as Spider-Man.
Yeah, yeah.
So it got me a lot of subscribers. And obviously, starting 2020, a lot of people were in quarantine, watching a lot of YouTube, which and I already had a foundation on the platform then, so it just gave me even more of a boost.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned taking out the audio and why. If you could go back in time, you'd probably fix that because you see why you'd want that now.
Yeah.
But it was like taking something relatable as Spider-Man. Because when I it's pretty funny when I think of Spider-Man, I think of Peter Parkour, it's Peter Parker, right? But it's just like you think, okay, that is the ultimate parkour person, right? So it's like, okay, perfect, you're recreating it. But then you even went further, where it's like, oh no, but I'm doing it within PS5, so you're taking a game and you're doing it, you're trying to recreate it. It's really cool. So you have not only the movie, but you have the video game, and it's taking something super relatable that's pop culture, and then blending your brand with that, and that's what the content is.
Yes.
And I think that so many people early on YouTube was afraid to do stuff like that. But then once it was embraced, it's like, oh, now some people overdo it too much. I think it's just like, what's the right type of balance? But with you, there's a couple videos that I really like, because I think he learned that it's like, oh, I took all the audio out, let's put some audio in, and it has more views, and it definitely has more views because it has that connection, and people feel like, oh, okay, instead of it's a visually entertaining thing, there's a story and there's some things that are interesting in that as well, and you're able to see the growth. But you saw a lot of growth in COVID because people were staying home. They needed to watch something. And then I want to say this, because I do believe this. I think, too, they wish they were outside doing some stuff that you're doing, too, because like they felt probably that quarantine, and they're like, oh, my gosh, I wish I could do this. How difficult was it to capture, content at that time, to do it? Were you kind of riding the momentum high that comes with when you have a lot of success really quick, or how was the that process of content creation? Because I know it's so awkward for so many different creators. So
it's definitely a little challenging back then because all the gyms, because of the restrictions that we had in Canada, I was actually in California, and then I went back to Canada. And because of that, I wasn't allowed in. I had to quarantine for 2 weeks just because of our restrictions. But then I wasn't allowed to go into the gym because the facility where I film my flips and whatnot was closed due to the restrictions. So that's when I bought myself a house using the money from my YouTube channel. And even then, I made an Among Us video when that was kind of popular, where I played 6 different characters just because I wasn't allowed to have friends over. So I edited myself as 6 different characters, and so it was challenging back then, but there was definitely a boost and whatnot. And doing stuff at home might I think might have made my audience a little happy, because it's like, oh, okay, at least he's having fun at home in quarantine as well. You know, like maybe I can have fun and make the best out of it.
Yeah, that's great that you're able to create, and how difficult it was in some aspects. Because it's like, oh, it'd be so much easier if we could have people in it, but you found a way to make it happen. That Among Us videos, like I definitely, everyone should check that one out, because that's one of my faves back then. Because it kind of was funny that you're all these different characters. You know, that's just the way it is. But around that same time and within it, that's when YouTube was actually doing something pretty disruptive. You had TikTok that was emerging in the world, and YouTube got, okay, what is our response to? And the first area that they did the beta with the YouTube Shorts, and that's vertical video, was in India. And when they were kind of coming in the United States, I know there was 10 channels that were selected to kind of say, hey, we're going to roll it out in the United States. We want to be able to do it. And so of the 2 of the 10, I was working with the Shorts team, you know, as a strategist for a creator, and a couple creators on it to get it going. And I personally love vertical video. Like that's probably more my jam of consumption. And so I knew it was going to be a big thing. When did you start realizing, oh, let's go after an audience, you know, across the internet? Maybe, you know, how much are we going to do vertically? Like we can go back and maybe take some previous content and put it out there. Like what was your journey into the vertical format form?
So I think it was, if I was to estimate, around 2022 that I really started to be like, you know what, I can't like avoid this, because back then, you know, filming everything myself with a quota of 1 to 2 videos a week using like acrobatics, it was very demanding. And then to add long form and short form on top of that, I was like kind of avoiding it, since my long forms were already returning money. But then after quarantine was done and shorts were introduced, the algorithm and viewership, maybe it was just people's tendencies, like there was a shift, and I saw it affect the views on my channel like greatly. So I would was experimenting a lot with different things. And just with me personally, I can't speak for other channels, but for me, it's when I started making a little bit longer videos, because the 3 to 4 minute ones that I was doing back then weren't working as much. So I started making a-minute ones. And then, but around 2022, I also was merging shorts on my channel and posting them to TikTok and whatnot to reach a broader audience. And some of my shorts have gotten me one short has gotten me like 4 million subscribers. So
yeah,
there's a lot of growth to do there. Like it's, yeah.
So, because I think you're in a position that most people wasn't, because like, oh, shorts, this is easy to make content, we can go ahead and do it, and a lot of people grew that way, but they never had the long form, right? So it's just like there's like this awkward tension in the beginning of when YouTube introduced it. And then 2, in YouTube's defense, a very mature platform is very hard to bring in a new feature. It just is. It complicates things. There's a ripple effect. For me, I loved it as a viewer, but I hated it for the creator, because they were making no money. It's for all the stuff that you're doing, it's like, okay, this is insane. Why would you do this? And so it was kind of a give and take, which was, you noticed, you analyzed, oh, some of my eyeballs are going elsewhere, and I need to be able to, I'm seeing the impact from it. So I need to be able to create a plan and an energy and an effort towards something. And that's when, you know, you went all in on it. But that didn't mean that you're getting the money. You got subscribers from it, you got views from it, but it took a while before it became mature in the platform. And I think now, I would say the last year, and I don't know, maybe 18 months, it's now fully integrated in ways that does make sense monetization wise. And also we're starting to see it with viewership too. It's like moving over to long form views. But how how does this new format, how did it change you as a creator? Because this was like at the time it was like literally you had 1 minute, 1 minute to grab their attention and go through it. How did that kind of change the way you create content?
It's actually insane how different it was personally for me. Like, because I wasn't used to it. I was used to making maybe 4 minute long videos where I can have like a slightly classier intro, we'll say, but then shorts is like, no, the hook, they can swipe away so easily, so quick. So it really made me focus on the hook and retention and different editing skills and like pattern interruptions to really like keep their attention. And I honestly think a lot of those aspects of editing um, shorts for like high retention that have hundreds of millions of views has helped and changed my editing style for long forms in a way that like now my average view percentage has gone up because
Yeah.
I know how to keep their attention a little more through my like shorts experience. So it's really like changed me that way.
Yeah. I want to focus in on this because it's like when so a little bit about my background. I was obsessed with advertisements. So these are like, if you really look at it, that's probably why I love shorts so much. It's like you got 30 seconds, you got 1 minute. You need to be able to tell your whole message within that amount of time. You have to be able to hook them, pull them in, and also sell them. So it's just like it's very hard. And I was obsessed with it. I used to record on a VCR. Kids, if you don't know what that is, it was a device with a tape that you could actually record television. And so I'd actually record all these ads and I'd keep the collection of ads. And then also I loved Saturday Night Live. I loved, that sketch comedy. And for me, I found that there was a certain cadence of really good, really good content. And you just explain what that is. It's like, you literally have just seconds to do what you need to do. The first thing is like, how are you going to pull them in? Because like when someone's coming in and they're just kind of swiping, how are you going to grab their attention and then pull them into your video? And then two is just more about the pacing and the edit and where you're more detailed with that. It's like you're intentional because you have a minute. Like, what are you going to cut out? Because you can't have it be bloated, right? And then how you're going to weave them through the story and the payoff, and then two, how are you going to get them to rewatch? And then for me though and that's what I love. It's like then too you apply. Oh, I learned this. Well, what if we just set up my video just right on the long form, but using this same intentionality? And I think that's the whole thing, is the intentionality of every little second leading into it. And then once it's established, then you're gonna have higher retention. Because like for me, if that first minute, if you can keep 10% more, it's going to pay off bigger on the back end. If you can keep 20% more people on that first minute, it's going to pay off so much more, because humans, if you can pull them in and set up the story, you hook them and set up the story, they're in for the journey if you're very intentionally of how they're viewing it. And so you noticed immediately that your attention started to go sky high on long form, just because of what you're doing for shorts. What was the elements that you feel like, was it just the editing itself, or just understanding you're more sensitive to the viewer because of the time code, of trying to get that in? What was kind of the things that you were looking for when you're editing or creating content on the long form?
So the first thing that was the editing. Like, there's a lot of effects and whatnot that I would add in my short form, such as like rotoscoping and whatnot, highlighting certain things like effects, like some graphics and stuff, just to make certain shots like stand out and whatnot. To make it also stand out amongst the crowd, because it does take a little more editing. So it helps stand out. So I added those aspects in my long form. So for example, when I'm like, oh, I'm going to flip off of this block, now I make the block like highlight have a little sound like a ding, just to like capture them a little more, instead of like back in the day, I would just be like, point at the block and that's it. These little things, I feel like they're very small, but it's just a few sound effects and visual effects kind of help grab their attention. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing, which is a more recent one due to like recently joining Channel Jumpstart, but the storytelling,
Yep.
that's been helping the retention like quite a lot.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the graphic elements that you're doing, because like I noticed that some of the videos that you really perform, it felt like I was in a comic book. I was seeing a comic book. It had like these comic book fills. So like you're like, oh, here's this highlight. It highlights it or whatever, and there's like these graphics that correspond with it. And I think that nod too, it shows the intentionality of you're just not slapping it together. It's like there's some intentionality, but it also anticipates certain things that are going to happen, or you're bringing in more curiosity. Oh, I wonder what he's going to do next. And so it's just like there is that retention along the way. And I know this, how focused I am on the viewer, because I think far too many people, they go and do it and they're like, the world's going to love it. They're just going to love what I post. Whatever I post, they're going to love. And when it doesn't, they're like, oh, why does the world hate me? Instead, or the YouTube algorithm hates me, whatever that is. But for me, it's like, take a step back and just look at the small details. And when you're able to do that, you notice, oh, it's even higher with the retention. And I want to get into storytelling in a second, because I think that we had a great conversation, this year on that as well. But it's the intentionality. So like who do you feel like your viewers are? We have a few of them on here. I've seen that they love your channel. They love watching it with their kids. But who would you say your ideal viewer would be?
I'd say the ideal viewer would be younger boys between the age of, we'll say, 6 to 13. Boys, because of the extreme nature of the stuff,
Yep.
although there's still quite a few girls that apparently have gotten them into gymnastics and whatnot. But I'd say it's around boys 6 to 13.
And what I noticed too is, and this is where just kind of digging into your channel, it's also their parent or guardian too. Like some of them like to watch content together, and they really love it. In fact, one of them is here as like empowered homeowner. They love your content. It's like, okay, this is so great, where they're able to watch something with their kids. And so for me, I can't tell you how many videos I've watched with my kids. It's like when they're into something, I'm like, okay, I'm all in. And then I'm like, oh man, this is really good content. This is like really great content. And so, yeah, I think it could be a multi-generational audience, but yeah, heavily focused in on the age group that you're there. And then two, it's if you really look at the age of the viewer, it's like that's when they're the most active. That's when they're most willing. That's when they're the most daring in some aspects too. It's like, hey, could I go do this? And if you really look at this is like literally a full circle to you, because you were that guy. See your YouTube video and you're like, this is what I need to do. This is so cool. And so it's really cool for that, it's like a full circle moment here for a lot of people. Let's go through one aspect that I think most creators don't have, that you actually have a blaring issue across, which is you could get hurt. And when you get hurt, you can't you can't just flip. You like if you look at this, most creators like sit behind a camera and they're like, hey, we're going to talk, but yet you are doing these crazy stunts, and you have a high probability of getting hurt, even though how much you practice. So have you ever got hurt that it delayed everything on your channel and was impacted by your channel?
So 2 years ago, I didn't have this prepared. It was just by my side. But 2 years ago, I ruptured my Achilles. And honestly, I was just training for myself. I was trying to push myself as an athlete. Even though I'm growing a little older, I was just trying to push myself and trying a trick outside. And I basically just put too much power into it. It wasn't even on the landing. It was on the takeoff. And I ruptured my Achilles. And I was like, it was the worst injury I had in my career. And I already had over 10 million subscribers by then, I believe. And I was like, okay, I need to stay positive. Like I need to stay like on track. And what I did is I organized a hard drive here called Stunts, with all like 2,000 plus stunts that I've recreated from movies and other characters over the years. And I organized them by tricks so that I was able to repurpose content and make new content from it. And then that lasted like 2 months until I had an air cast and I was able to flip in the air cast, which I don't recommend, but I did it very.
The doctor's like, no.
I did it very gradually, and I had the speediest recovery that I've ever heard of my friends for that kind of injury. But yeah, sometimes you just got to adjust your content strategy, because for me, I had years of content to repurpose, but not everyone's going to have that. So I think adjust, and I don't think it's good to rely purely on performance, because when I'm 40, I'm not going to be doing the tricks that I'm doing right now, but I still want to create content. So like at some point it's good to think of the future, and like, you know, they're going to be there more for you at the end, rather than just what tricks you can do or whatever performance.
So I want to, so did you go get all those during your downtime? So like when you got hurt, that's when you're like bringing it all together, or were you doing it before? Did you have that hard drive before?
No, I put them all together and organized them once the week I got hurt.
Got it. And so this is what I love about it. It's like sometimes when we analyze and adjust because we're forced to, that's when you see the biggest opportunities, because is you're put into the position, you're like, oh crap, I need to be consistent, I need to get content out. And then you organized, luckily you had a really big back library of stunts. And then it was like, okay, now I could do compilation for them. There's a more reaction for them. There's a lot of stuff that you could do because of necessity, but yet that necessity literally brought you one other thing. And this is what I want everyone to understand, which is the ability to create, because you already created, right? And so for me, just because you want to put out a new video, sometimes I like to get ahead where I have multiple videos, so I'm not really forced to make something just go out that's kind of not mature enough. In when I say mature enough, that it's maybe not edited enough, or I haven't put enough energy into it, or it's not quite there, and being ahead gives you the ability of having videos that are just done, or you could pull in from it. And then too, with your scenario, it's like, man, things can get crazy, and whether you're getting hurt, or you're going into another place, or you're maybe on vacation or whatever, but it gives you the ability to still create content in a different way. But I just don't understand how the doctor even allowed you at 2 months to even do stuff with that air cast. I just don't get that, man.
I didn't see the doctor after I got my cast removed and got the air cast. I didn't see a doctor. I was seeing another like physiotherapist to make sure I wasn't imbalanced, because all my weight was on one leg. But besides that, like, it's not that they didn't allow me. I was doing it in a very smart way and gradually, because my foot, I had it in an angle which shortened the Achilles, making it, but it helped my recovery.
Well, cool. Well, I want to kind of go through a conversation. You and I got to spend some time together in the Dominican Republic, and I presented something in the Dominican Republic for some of my students, which was really storytelling, like going more intentional on storytelling. And we talked about a technique that I use called ABC storytelling, and I want to really dive into some of our conversation, because from the outside appearance, most people think, oh, it's more about the gimmick, or you're going on, somebody else's IP, and you're going, and doing these things, and there's no storytelling that you can do. But you process this, and I noticed a difference. I noticed a difference in your content almost immediately when you started to get it over. You're starting to perceive things differently. Could we talk about storytelling a minute, and then how you're approaching content now versus what you were doing prior? Because I think you're intentional when you knew that you need to have storytelling, but now you're super hyper fixated on it, which is great. That warms my heart. But yeah, could you just talk about that for a minute?
So, for example, for my recreating stunts series, before that, I was doing it in 10 levels. So each trick from 1 to 10 would get harder because my intention was like, oh, why stay until the end to see the harder trick? But at the end of the day, it's still like a performance based thing versus an actual like story and whatnot. So after your teaching about ABC storytelling, I was like, okay, like what can I add to that video? So the my biggest like success story is the recent one with stunts from Sonic, where the A like what am I doing? I'm doing the stunts from Sonic. Why am I doing it? Because like if I complete the 10 stunts, there's a payoff. So I
Yeah.
added a payoff at the end, a reason to stay until the end, and that video got me on trending. It
Yep.
got 5.1 times more views than average according to YouTube Studio. Has the biggest average view percentage that I've like had. So I added a why, a reason to stay until the end, and it also like it made my content like a little more challenging because then it I had to be intentional
Yep.
instead of just going through the motions. I had to like write a story, but something went wrong, I guess, in the video, something unpredicted. But I was like, I wasn't upset about it because I'm like, whoa, this just adds to the story. Something went wrong, just like in movies, right? And it wasn't faked. It was just like, oh, this. I have to think of a plan B for this thing that happened, but that just
Yeah.
elevated the content and the story.
Yeah. So, so I remember the conversation. My wife and I were like walking. We were in the Dominican Republic. We're walking in this resort, and it was like late at night, and you guys were walking this way, and you're like talking about the storyline of what you're gonna do. This whole thing. I'm like, okay, it hit through. But when I watched that Sonic video, I'm like, you got it. You actually got it. You got what I was trying to explain in that. And then two, it was like the whole reason why people wanted to see to the end was because of the story. And yes, they want to still see kind of you doing certain things, and the unpredictability as human nature is like, how do we weave this in? How do we bring this in a unique way? But there's no reason why that video wasn't the highest retention that you've ever had. There's, getting on trending, all that other stuff. And when you're on trending too, you're going out to a wider audience. And so it's just like, okay, something's going on here. But for me, it's like you brought value, and then you brought connection that's even deeper than what was done in the past. And so that intentionality is really important. And so I'm glad that you had that experience, because once you taste it, then you're like, okay, now what? Now how can I really engage some great storylines so that it's much bigger than myself, but it's also a way that we can connect and love, and it can take people through that journey of these videos. So what was the comments like when you went through, and because like I know that you're hyper fixated on your content, but you tested something new. You tested a new type of storytelling. You're forgiving of yourself when something wasn't just perfect, right? You brought it into the story. How was the comments in that one versus other comments of other videos that you had?
It's the comments like were really good, like as expected. Like a lot of my audience loves Sonic, but they even though there might have been a little less performance than usual, because there were still 10 tricks but like less attempts and more focus on the story. My audience didn't care that there were less tricks. They were happier because they were brought like on the journey with me. And there's one trick that like it took me 300 attempts to get, and that one like I don't recommend. That was just my athlete spirit like forcing it. But um I added that to the storyline, and they were super supportive, and the kids and the audience love that, like, in the comments, that like it really motivates them to keep persevering in their own lives and stuff. And I love seeing that personally.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, when I went through the comments, it was like, okay, this is it, like I think it engaged people that probably haven't seen your content in a while, because it was like, oh, it's far reaching. They're like, oh man, I love, so I saw a lot of that. I love Nick. I love what he's doing. It's been a while, so you had some of that. But it was more, oh man, your videos are amazing. This video is super amazing. Your parkour is so good. Love the story of the stunts, and like the story of the stunts is there. And so there's a lot of great comments. And for me, I love comments, whether it's good or bad, just so that I know that there's like discussion going on, right? And if the discussion is going on, what is that discussion? And for me, it's inspiration. You're inspiring those kids. You did it in a way where they're like, oh, this is so fun. And I know one of the reasons why I was engaging is because they were sharing it. It was like, hey, you got to go see this video. And you brought in a wider audience, which helped you get on trending, and that even brought in a wider audience. And so it's great. It's great to see that. And so from that, how has that kind of changed your new style of videos when it comes to both shorts and long form? Like you now see case storytelling's where it's at. And you made the comment, hey, when I'm 40, I don't know if I can't be as nimble of where it's at, but I still want to create content. How has that kind of changed your ideas of how you create and what you create and the intentionality of that?
Yeah, I'm a lot more intentional with the script now, because back then I was just going to the gym and be like, all right, these are the tricks I need to land that Spider-Man or whatever character has done. And now it's like, okay, but like now I'm a lot more strict with myself. And on the script, it's like, okay, but why am I doing it? Creating a story with it. So sometimes that makes it a little more challenging, but as we just talked about, it's obviously like worth it. So it has changed me in the way that like I'm more strict on the script, and I don't like even more intentional with the ideas now, where like I make sure to, before even starting recording a video, that I have that like planned out, the like what am I doing and why am I doing it in the video. So being intentional, I think, is like very important, because back then when I was just make a video to make a video, sure, it could get some views, but if there's a reason, like I study and I'm intentional about it, and I'm like, this is why I think it could do well, there's a lot more like chances that it could.
Yeah, I'm going to bring up a comment, and I just see it coming on. I was going to wait a little bit earlier, but this is a really, really, really good comment. This is I literally used that trick where it took you 200 times to teach a lesson for my kids. Wow. Like,
I love that.
That right there, because it's like I wanted to teach them a lesson, right? She was been struggling with being perfect, and she tried something new. And I said to her, see, it took Nick 200 freaking times. It's just like that. That is the power of this. And so for me, it's the relatability, the authenticity, the connection. And if you didn't show it took 200 times, that moment in that family would have been missed, right? It's just like literally, it's just like, it's pretty amazing. And so for me, I want to make this prediction. When you're 40, you're going to still be like the Tony Hawk of parkour. It's just like, it's in your blood. It's like, it's going through you. If Tony Hawk can still do a 720 on a big ramp, you can too. Cause he's like 56. Like, it's just like, come on now. But I think he'll always be there. But by mastering this and showing the humanity part of it and the challenge part of it and that other storytelling aspects of it is perfect. Cause like if you would have cut that out of, oh, this didn't go how I wanted to, then if you didn't weave that into the story itself, it's missed opportunities from my point of view. Missed opportunities to say, oh, okay, this could go a little bit deeper into this way. But you saw the power of that one. I mean, here he uses a fatherly lesson. of
I
not
love that
giving up.
so much.
Yeah.
Like perseverance is personally my like favorite trait about myself. The fact that like I don't give up, and like we were just talking about, like it's the story that's more important than the actual like trick and performance. But like my athlete side was not letting this trick go. I was just like, there's no way I'm giving up. And if I can teach kids or parents or whatever to never give up through it, then like honestly, it makes it all worth it for me.
Yeah, I'm going to put this from another one. It's like, I've never been interested in watching this type of video, but now I do because I love it teaches perseverance and dedication. And I know as a parent, like I got 5 kids, you've met most of my kids, but it's like, I honestly look at the generation, and I think they're an amazing generation. I think Gen A and Gen Z is an amazing generation. And I think there's a lot of weight on their shoulders and social pressures and all this other stuff. And I see a lot of them. It's like they're not willing to do the hard things, because they're afraid of criticism or whatever. And if the underlining theme is of your channel is get out, get your body moving, push yourself, don't give up when it doesn't work out at the same time. Every parent I know in the world would love to see that happen. Like, they want to see their kids get motivated and do those things, but more importantly, be willing to take that step of overemphasizing determination, perseverance, impact, which I love. So it's so great, so great. Have you thought about that? Was that intentional in the sense of the perseverance part? Were you considering that as a creator, that was come across of encouraging people to be determined and preserve, have that determination to get it right or not give up to get it right?
It wasn't intentional to show it to my audience, but it's just such a like important and huge part of me that it was inevitably gonna come out of my content like accidentally and stuff. So like I never tell the kids like, hey, be active, do this or whatever, but sometimes
You show them.
showing it is
Yeah,
more important than saying it. So like the amount of like hundreds, if not thousands of kids have gotten into parkour, gymnastics, or just like jump around in their house, be more active through watching my videos without even saying it. But it was never intentional to show the perseverance. It had to come out like
yeah. Well,
accidentally.
I think it's a theme that I think you could be a little bit more on the nose. It's like life, like just that comment alone. It's just like it's a sense of connection to the child. It's a sense of connection to parents too. But it's like just to be, hey, life might, and I'm not saying this, you'd weave it in the way that you need to weave it in, but life hits you sometimes and you can't give up. You always have to try again. Those little moments like that is some of the most powerful messaging in the world, and what the world really needs too. It's just like sometimes we're so close of succeeding and we give up, and so they need to be inspired by it. And I'll share a quick story, but I have a brother that's older than me that we had a swimming pool growing up, and he could flip and do things. And he could do a 2.5 on a low dive and get right into it. I couldn't even do a 1.5. Right? I'll try to do it. I'll flip like that. And everything that he did when it comes to that type of performance, it was a natural thing. Me, I don't give up. Like, dude, if I'm gonna do it, whatever. It was literally 50 times belly flopping on that before I actually could get that rotation to 1.5. And then it probably took me a good 500 times to get to a 2.5 on that, right? But for me, that perseverance is, I think is something. And this is what I'm going to say is like, when people see you do things and you try and you show the humanity side of it and you're weaving it into your story, it makes them say, if he can do it, I can do it, or, oh, I got to try this now, or, oh my gosh, if he's done hard things, I can do hard things. That is a really, really powerful message. And I don't think you have to be super on the nose on it, but it makes it more relatable, because the magic of the world, and this is what I love about this, is like, oh, everything's just perfect. I go to Instagram, everything looks just perfect, this whole thing. And that's not life. So it's so great. So great. Okay. There's so many people that's coming on for questions and wants to kind of pick your brain a little bit before we open it up for questions on this tail end. I just want to ask you, like, if you were to start today and realize, oh, I'm going to start a YouTube channel, I'm going to put all my energy and effort into it, and it could be in the same niche that you're currently doing right now, how would you approach your content differently? Like, what are some of the higher priorities that you would actually look at doing out of the gate?
Like we're talking about long form or just in general?
Just in general. Yeah, just in general. What would be your approach?
Just like being intentional, I think, is very important. I see a lot of content creators make content just to make content. They have like their own personal quota of, let's say, one video a week, a month, or something, and they kind of try to force that video and stuff. But sometimes it's better to not force it and be intentional. Like, okay, I'm trying, let's say, just because we've talked about this, stunts from Sonic, because there's a new Sonic movie coming out or something, and it's going to go up on Google Trends, like on YouTube search and stuff. So being intentional, having a reason why your video might do well, I think would help personally, because I was doing less of that at the beginning.
Yep.
Definitely adjusting is 100% needing. Like we're never going to be perfect right off the bat, and like I still so far from being like perfect, but being flexible and able to adjust is something that would be important. And like you always say, focus on the viewer. That's something that I haven't done enough consciously until like more recently. Right. Is like, try to think of who you're trying to reach out to, because then your content's going to be more intentional, since like, okay, my audience is people who like to travel. Like, what does that audience want to see? Yeah. So being more intentional is what like I would recommend.
Yeah, and I think too, test things too, because I think the short form content is a great way to test. Get it out there, see if there's an appetite for. And for me, I always lean towards long form content, because it's more sustainable for you as a creator and a business. It just is, because the money is so much better in that regard. But that being said, I think the platform's mature enough that you can actually test things and say, oh, they respond really well with this. And the first question would be, well, what can I do now on long form that can coincide with it? Because it could kind of lead traffic in. So cool. Well, you down to take a couple questions on this? Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay. So we have one, build and fix with Mooney. And it's a super chat. Thank you so much for the super chat. Nick, I'm having success with shorts. Found out that the swipe away rate doesn't matter for viral shorts, 40% and 78%, and both have gone viral. Thoughts? So I think they're bringing in cases. Whenever I hear percentage points, I just want everyone to know is there's different metrics that we look at, and sometimes it could be misunderstood. But maybe this is a good question is, have you noticed that your percentage retention rate has gone down the more viral that it is? And if so, why is that?
Of course, like the average view percentage is going to go down the more viral it is, because it's reaching a broader audience, and not that entire audience is going to want to watch that short. So it's going to go down, and that happens regardless. But for me, even though that goes down, it doesn't necessarily affect it, because as YouTube Studio even tells me, like word for word, like, oh, like yes, it's reaching a broader audience, so that's why it's like
Yeah.
going down. So it is good to watch the average view percentage to see, like, if there's any drop offs and stuff, because you want to keep them for the entire time. But it's gonna go down, at least in my experience.
Yeah, no. So Nick nailed it right on this one, and what happens is the bigger the video gets, the more general of an audience goes, all your metrics go down. So click through rate goes down, average view, or so your percentage of view goes down, and just kind of across the board it goes down because it goes out to a wider audience. Now, what you need to understand is YouTube also understands that, and so you might be performing higher in that realm of viewership than you've ever done before, and it might, in your internal metrics, it might be lower. You're like, oh, this is a disaster. How is this even working? Well, it's going out to a wider audience, and so it's pretty cool to see that. So just keep in mind, the more views that it has, all the metrics go down on that, except for watch time. Watch time goes through the roof, and views go through the roof on that. And you just remember all the other metrics that you're possibly gauging on. You're creating a new baseline for those types of views, and so you understand, oh, when it's wider, of course, it's not going to have that same percentage from there. That's a really great question on that. We had another one come in. And I don't know if you're willing to share this one, but Real Deals is saying, what does your AVD retention look like on a 2-hour long video versus a 10-minute video?
I've only made one 2-hour long video ever, and the average view percentage, if I'm to pull it up real quick, it's pretty bad. But I knew it was going to be bad because it was a compilation of me recreating stunts, but by nature, the whole compilation is a little bit repetitive.
Yep.
So it's let's see. So the average view percentage is like 10% on 2 hours and 4 minutes. And it's pretty bad. But the compilation,
I personally don't think that's bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't think it's bad. It's like you had a 22 minute viewing time. So the average, see, this is where I always struggle when to look at what metrics, right? But someone just watched 22 minutes of your video. That's a lot. Like, especially when maybe they only prior before that maybe watched 1 minute of it on a short, right? So it's just like there's ways to do it. Now, it would have probably been better in the 35-minute range. You know what I'm saying? If it was in 35-minute for 2 hours, that's really good when it comes to TV viewership. But then two, you never know. Oh, maybe they got interrupted and they're going to come back and watch it again. And so it's like you got to understand the format of it from there is difficult. So when I look at it, and Nick, you're well aware of this, but it's like I want to know what device type that we're talking about too, because it's like overall, hey, yeah, maybe it didn't work for mobile, but on TV it might have been 40 minutes. And so I'm very curious if you're right there. Let's see what that is for it.
Yeah, I'm trying to load it up, but for me, yeah, like it's definitely it's probably 40 to 50% average view percentage on my normal videos, but this one it's just, I think, long, like 2-hour long compilation or 2-hour long videos can be good. I've only made one that's a compilation of videos that are the same group, but the problem that I had, which I knew, is they're too similar. It's too so it's repetitive to watch that for 2 hours. So if someone's going to do that, a compilation, I think I'd recommend make sure there's different, like they're different enough, but in the same grouping still, that it all targets the same viewer, but they're not too repetitive and they get bored.
Here's another question. Should we do multiple audience avatars or viewer avatars, cold viewers, warm viewers, core viewers, or one is enough? What would you say on that?
So I think obviously avatar, this sounds like a potential jump starter. Like you'd be the expert on that, on avatars and whatnot. I personally don't think, I think at the beginning targeting a very specific avatar would probably be better because you're more targeted. It's less confusing.
Yeah.
I think that's would be best, but I think you'd be better to
Yeah,
speak on
yeah.
that.
So, what I teach my students to do is we're really going after the potential viewers. So we want the people that would be the most likely to click and watch, and that's who we're trying to understand. And if we do the video right, we're going to convert them into an active viewer. So we're using different maybe words here, but an active viewer is when they watch more than one video within a certain period of time. And if you notice on your audience tab in analytics, you'll have a blue line and a purple line. The new viewer is the blue line. The purple line is the returning viewer, and that's where loyalty comes in. And YouTube does not look at subscriber base as loyalty. It looks at that purple line as loyalty. And so what we want to do is bring new people clicking on. And I can guarantee you, Nick's had videos where it brought in millions of new people coming on and subscribing. And then those subscribers then turned into a returning viewer because they're watching more than one video in that realm. So for me, I always focus in on the potential viewer, because even the returning viewer will still like what the potential viewer would love, and then the core viewer or hardcore viewer would love kind of the elements, because they're watching every little detail. They know, oh, look, he landed a little bit differently in this one than he did over here, and they're leaving comments like that. So that's kind of how we gauge that. So. And then Empowered Homeowner, which is one of your super fans here, says they watch on TV too. So they're consuming your content on TV, which is a gathering moment for sure.
Yeah, I just found it 71% for the long form, 2 hour long on TV. So it's because who's gonna some people do 13% on the mobile phone, but starting a 2 hour long video on the phone, the average view percentage is also a huge difference. When you're on the TV, you're gonna watch longer than a 2 hour long video on the phone.
Exactly. It's definitely an atmosphere that they'll lean back and watch, and engage. Okay. So Taylor's asking, what is the difference between content that builds views and content that builds loyal viewers, and how would I focus on the second one?
So builds views for me and my content style would just be doing what's popular, trying to reach a broad audience. So what I would do in 2020 and 2021, I would just show, let's say, Spider-Man do a trick, and then I would recreate it. No fails. It would just be him, then me, and that's it. There would be no connection between me and the audience, but that went viral. I did a few from anime that were shared on different websites and articles and whatnot, but there was zero connection there. So it's when I brought in kind of emotion, talking to my audience. That's when I developed a connection, and then they're there more for you. And sure, you still have to provide the content that they want to see, but there's going to be the core audience that are just dedicated and watch no matter what. So make sure that you have a kind of a connection with them, whether it's through storytelling, which is probably the most effective means, because then there's emotions involved. So that's what I would recommend.
Yeah. And to kind of piggyback on what Nick was saying would be, think of loyal viewers as loyal friends. You need to have consistency of connection with a friend. If not, you're still friends, but you're not as loyal or whatever. So it's just be consistent in that too. And then there's moments where you really connect with friendship, right? So there's certain things that friends like to do, and the more consistent you are with those things, it creates a deeper bond. And for me, when I found out that I had a lot of perspective on audience development, of understanding people, how they consume content, what they actually do. It's more about trying to figure out who that person is, and then to bring that value proposition in where they feel oh, I can't wait for another video to go out. And then two, create moments of shareability. So we call it shareable moments. It's when you can what is that moment in your video that they want to share? and they're thinking about 4 or 5 other people that they're connected to that would like this type of content. And so it's kind of creates this feedback loop that brings in more viewership, but more importantly, more loyalty. Because the loyalty factor is, oh, I can't wait for him to post, or I can't wait for that to happen. That's what we're actually looking for, which is that actually brings in long-term sustainability from it. So
that consistency you talked about, I think, is important when it's manageable for your content, because if you can make one video a week, let's say every Friday, you're part of their lives, you're part of their routine. And it's like, yes, I get to like hang out with so-and-so, the creator today, hang out, like watch their video. So you're part of their lives versus those creators who make viral videos like that take a lot of effort, like a few times a year, like 3-4 times a year, every couple months. You're sure that video might get a lot of views, but you're not like integrated like in their lives, and it
Yep.
creates less of a connection, I think.
Yeah, love it, love it. Aaron's asking 2 important questions. What other niches do you study for ideas to bring into your videos? That's the first question. And then the second half is, what's the color lightsaber blade is the best?
Well, I'll take the easy one out of the way. Best lightsaber color. Oof. So in old lightsaber lore, I'm not going to get too heavy into this.
Get nerdy. I want nerdy. Come on now.
In old lore, it used to be that green is more like you're more powerful with the Force and more knowledgeable, where blue is more like you're more like physical, like you're more a little more fighting and whatnot. So I prefer, even though I prefer blue as a color, green, the knowledge and experience that comes with it, and being good with the Force rather than just being good with the lightsaber, is more of value to me. But obviously, there's other cool ones like, yellow, purple, like yellow, like Temple Guard, which I think I made one back there. But anyways, so sorry, what was the first question again?
No, that's the important question first. So we have that one. For me, I'm the same. I love the green. It just brings the essence of Return of the Jedi. I really loved how Luke evolved and where he was at on that one. But when that green lightsaber comes on, I'm like, come on now, come on. It was just like, it's so powerful. It's awesome. Okay. The question was, what other niches do you study for ideas to bring into your videos?
So I'll sometimes I'll hop on Google Trend, and of course this is my niche, but I'll hop on Google Trends and look up through YouTube searches and look up the word parkour, see if there's any related words. And one of them that's constantly on there is Minecraft parkour. So I tried to look at the gaming niche, which is also something that Daryl has told me to look at, gaming concepts to add into my videos, not necessarily recreating stunts from games, but
Yep.
So gaming's a big one because gaming can get a lot of views on YouTube. Gaming and pop culture niches are the main two. I also like to look at challenge type channels or people that do something like, for example, like Unspeakable, and they're like, oh, I turned my house into this. And it's just like stuff like that is, I feel like, could be interesting to my audience. So I like to look at that niche and see if there's ever a way to incorporate my skills and acrobatics into it. At the end of the day, I always try to take my niche, parkour, and then merge another one with it to reach a broader audience, which is, I think, why I grew so much. It wasn't just the parkour, it was the pop culture with it.
Yeah, I think for me, I love to get ideas of inspiration. I think when you're going out, if you're looking at it through the eyes of a viewer and seeing what it is, like, you can get inspired by anything. You literally can. I'm more of an idea person when it comes around visual inspiration. So like images actually will do more than video concepts will. Like I can think of 100 things that we can do. But I think the big thing would be just taking time, energy, and effort to get outside of your niche. Where Nick's using Google Trends, that's great. It's just like, try to figure out what's happening, where momentum is. That's a great opportunity. For me, I do something similar, but I go into images, and I just like search for a topic in images, and I actually use Google Images for it, because it's like I just kind of scroll on that. I know I'm not watching a video. If I do it on YouTube, I watch videos and it's not as productive. So for me, it's just more, oh, here's an idea. Oh, this is a really interesting thing, or I can go down a rabbit hole. But when you really want to succeed, it's more about what inspires you to create, and sometimes you just need some type of ignition of that. If not, you're going to always do the same type of things. In the world of content creation, I know I've worked with enough content creators on YouTube, but also in Hollywood, and they have something that inspired them. In fact, a TV show that I produce and co-founded is called The Chosen. We just opened up season 5 this week in theaters, and you're thinking, wait, TV show in theaters? Well, we were doing that for multiple reasons, but it is a theatrical experience, and season 5 is the Holy Week, and it's in 3 parts. And so part 1 just opened up in the theaters this week. And I know for a fact that the creator, who my partner is, that is a writer director of the show, was inspired by Breaking Bad. Okay, Breaking Bad and Jesus, Breaking Bad and Jesus. And it was just like the dialogue. And then he was also inspired by West Wing, the TV show of the walk and talks. A lot of the stuff was walking and talking. And so he took that inspiration of it's really interesting to see how decision-making and how things impact from Breaking Bad, and that really good character development that Vince Gilligan does, but also West Wing of like Jesus walked a lot. So maybe a lot of these moments are walk and talks. And so the thing for me is like, you can get inspiration from anywhere, but it's more about how you apply it uniquely to you. And what's your unique value proposition when it comes to that? And I think that's the interesting thing. It's like you could talk about certain things all different ways, but what makes us a creator is the unique approach we take on it. Because like anyone can copy, and I think that's the laziest thing in the world to do. Is just like literally copy it, right? But realistically, and you've seen this, like everyone copies you, Nick. Like you literally down to the detail of, I'm using even his same image and body, and just switching out my head. But it's like anyone can copy, and that's a form of flattery. But it's like, how do you uniquely make it your own? Is a big deal. So love it. Okay, so let me let me hit one right here. This one's, it looks like coming from a Jumpstarter. How has your avatar evolved since joining Channel Jumpstart? What are the distinct differences of your avatar, or how you look at your avatar?
So personally, I didn't start that long ago, Channel Jumpstart, but it hasn't really evolved too much, because when I started Channel Jumpstart, I already had my channel for like 7 years. So I've met like thousands of my fans in real life. So I had a really good idea of who was watching me already. So it's a different experience for me because I already knew who my avatar was, but it's really, really helped me be intentional about them, because I was always just trying to create the video based off of what was doing well for others or what I knew would do well for my channel, but I wasn't really thinking about focusing what do they want to see, what would make them happy, So it's made me more intentional.
Well, I want to talk about that, because that's one of the things that that you did that I always encourage. It's like we have this like preconceived idea of who our viewer is, and it can shift when you see who they are in real life. In fact, I was having a discussion with the creator, and they're like, "Oh no, our avatar is this." I'm like, I can't buy it. I'm sorry. They're like, we know we've been doing content, whatever. And they were going on tour. They actually were doing a performance, and I'm like, just tell me who shows up. And I says, this is the person that's going to show up. And they're like, I don't think so. And so anyway, I went to one of their performances in Vegas, and guess who showed up? It was literally the age and the demographic of exactly what I said. And they're like, now we get it. And I says, it's not that you don't have those other ones, but these are the ones that are the most obsessed. And yeah, you might have some other people, but this is the ones that you're actually speaking to. And the value proposition is they see a sense of connection of something that they wish they had. And that was the light bulb moment for them. And it helps you really now see, I'm creating content. This is the eyes and lens of the viewer that I'm making for. What can we do to hook them? What can we do to set up the story? What can we do to bring in that shareable moment, and that connection point to go from there, which I love. So here's a great question from Joe Zeke, was asking, how do you train your instincts to spot attention grabbing moments before they happen on camera?
Oof. I honestly, that's a hard one for me. Attention grabbing moments. Sometimes I try to like manufacture them, not necessarily like fake them per se, but like it's very much it's like kind of intuitive. The more you do it, the more you just make content and the more you analyze retention graphs, you see what grabs their attention on other videos. And it's not just what grabbed their attention, but why did it grab their attention, you know?
Right.
So it's just like, is it a fall? Is it this? Is it not? Like a lot of times for me, I learned through the retention graph. So on other videos, I see that I recreated a trick. Then I have the side by side of the character doing it and me doing it. And it's different than how I just recreated it because I added some movie magic to make it look more accurate. But
Right.
the movie magic is not what they expected. So having something unexpected made them replay, and there's a huge bump in the graph. So now that I learned from the retention graph, that's helped me do that in future videos. But it's a little hard to do in person for me, at least personally.
Yeah, I would say there was one moment, and I've shared this on a stream before, but I think it's really important. There's one moment when you found a really good creator, and they do a great job visualizing. So I was actually working very closely with Mr. Beast, and they invited in these YouTubers, and these YouTubers were literally congregating by each other, talking, whatever. And Mr. Beast was like setting up a scene, in his head. And I went over to those creators and I go, "You guys are the dumbest people I've ever been around." And they're like, "Whoa, that's really." I go, "You got the number one YouTuber over here doing something that you're not seeing what he's doing, and you can learn from it." Which is he's literally editing the video in his head right now, and he knows that there's a freaking disconnect, and he's trying to fix it. And you guys are over here thinking, "Oh, this has been so fun," or whatever, when you could be looking at, hey, he's thinking, "I'm losing the viewer right now in the video. How can I re-engage him?" And they're like, "Oh my gosh." And so, I said, just watch him very closely of what's happening, because good content creators, when they're making content, they're thinking of the end product. And did they have the shot? Do they have that moment? Is this going to grab them? If it not, they need to adjust, right? And so anyway, they went and watched over, and he goes, he snaps. He goes, "Yep, I know what we're going to do now." And so he directed the people to come do it. They moved over a big scale on it, and it was this moment that really brought the video back in. And so the point that I'm talking about, Zeke, is like, all good creators are not thinking of what's in the moment. They're thinking about how it's received on the screen, and is it going to grab it? Is it going to connect them or whatever? So for me, I've done this enough where an image can pull in. Oh, here's that moment. Here's the grab and attention moment. Here's something that you can do very visually to pull them in even deeper. But great creators were looking at, oh, I don't think this is going to pull off really well. I might need to switch the camera, or we need to set this up differently. But that's where I think your train is more trying to edit in your head of what you got, and realize maybe this isn't the best way to do it. So. Okay, there was a really good question that it just kind of went down. Let me see if I can grab it. It was a really, really good question. I should have started and I didn't do it. But okay, right here. Okay. No, that wasn't it. But we'll answer this one. It was from the same person. But creating the avatar of our ideal viewer has been the most valuable part of CGS so far. So there is a CGS student. This is the question I was looking for. How much feedback on a video do you get before posting it, and whose opinions do you trust?
So
this is
okay.
one of the best questions of our stream I've ever had.
how much feedback do I get?
Yeah.
Almost none, I'll be honest. Like this it is very good to surround yourself with people who might know. Like it's important to get feedback. I do value that. And sometimes like I try to, but it's hard because I have a lot of content creator friends, but they're all short form. So when I show them a long form, it's a little hard, and I don't necessarily want to put that burden on them. But it's also that like one of the persons that understands my audience best is like me. So
Yeah.
I'll watch that video 10, 12 times or whatever. And like, I'll see, like, you know what, I was kind of bored during that moment, or something's going to bother me, but I'll like let it slide. But by the 10th time I'm rewatching and editing the video, I'm like, no, I need to change that. So I personally, I do value other people's opinion. I think it's important to look into, but at the end of the day, take their opinions. And if you don't think that's what's best with your audience, I'd say go with your gut, because at the end of the day, if if you do what you think is right, you shouldn't have any regrets. But if you take someone's opinion and it like doesn't like pay out, then you might regret not listening to your gut. But
Yeah. Well, this is really easy for me. I want to take opinions from people that understand what I'm trying to do. And believe it or not, that's not people in your own niche, because if they're in their own niche, they're gonna be opinionated on it. So you got to understand people that actually understand what good content is, and like, well, why did you choose this hook? You know, and I think they're going to be more opinionated on what you're trying to do. So for me, I like to surround myself with people that fall into that category, and are willing to say, oh, I understand your hook here. This is where it kind of disconnect, or I understand the storytelling here. You're trying to set this up here. So I'd rather have that. Now, noticing that you do kids songs and more, let me tell you what I would do. And I would take your video and put it on an iPad, not upload it to YouTube, hand it to a 2 to 4 year old and see if they swipe away. like in the moment they swipe away, they've lost their attention. That's your feedback loop right there. Like seriously, like if and it can't be your own kid or your own child, it has to be somebody else, because if you can't pull them in, if they're automatically getting distracted, that's the best editing that you could possibly use right there. And trust me, there's a YouTuber that's creating a brand new channel that came to my house, and they have a new content style. And in fact, it's an hour-and-a-half video. And they're probably doing about 6 or 7 of these videos before they even launch the channel, because they're doing it the smart way of really understanding who the viewer is. And immediately when I saw the video, my jaw dropped. Like I ain't kidding you. Like the hook was so freaking good. And then they came to my house and they showed me another video, and my jaw didn't drop as much. I'm like, why did you take out this part? Like that part literally pulled me in. I was like all in on the video. Like, why would you do this? Right. And so they're putting it back in, and I explained why. It's just like, it literally created something. And then two, you can get great feedback on, hey, will this pull you into the story? Like if you're going to click, if you're my ideal avatar, that's fine. But can I set up? Do you know what's going on here? And I think you can get surrounded by people that are trusted. So every big creator that I know does what Nick does. They have their gut. They know what it is. However, they do have valued people when they're trying to get out of their own head that they'll give the content to, and they'll get feedback. Isn't that correct, Nick? I mean, you're gonna have, if something's like not quite where you needed to be, or you're like trying to test it out, or you're trying to do something, there's always something that someone that you trust.
Yeah, there's like whenever there's something that like I try to get what we call like a muggles like perspective. I try to get like my sisters, for example, they don't do flips, right? They don't understand. So I'm like, you know what? Did this make sense to you, or is this too much like flip jargon or whatever? Because at the end of the day, it needs to make sense to people who can't flip. So sometimes like I'll try to ask them for that. But there's also my buddy Matt, who is a master, in my opinion, of storytelling for shorts and stuff. And he's so creative, more than I could ever be, in my opinion. And so I like to get his opinion, especially on that kind of stuff, because he's also a flipper, so that helps. But
Yep.
besides that, I try to trust my gut.
Yep. Agreed. Justin Johnson saying, most of our viral videos hit over 1 million and were all accidents. We learn from those and can now use the knowledge to make more. Happy accidents are great, man. And I'll answer this one, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too. But I think creating content and it takes off. I always ask why did this one take off when others didn't? And the happy accidents would be, what does all your happy accidents have in common? I can guarantee you there's something there. There's a pattern there. You just might not see it yet. And so I always like to look at why are these working and these are not? What's going on there? And look for those patterns of signs. And sometimes you have to get in the comments for it, but it should be apparent. Like I use this example of Casey Neistat. He's known, as a YouTuber. I says, what is Casey Neistat really? And literally 70% of all his views come from him doing reviews of airplanes, reviews of hotels. And so it's just like that's, from my point of view, that's where he can get a guaranteed view if he does a seat review on an airplane, guaranteed. But you can see those patterns specifically of there might be some value proposition or something that's done that there is some consistency on it. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
So you said something that I fully agree with. And sometimes it's in the comments, and that's what I try to look at. So sometimes I'll try to look at other people's videos, for ideas and stuff. And I'm like, this idea, I don't understand why this got millions of views, let's say as a short. And I'm like, this idea does not seem that special, doesn't stand out to me. So I'll look at the comments. I'm like, oh, that's why something specific happened. And sometimes I see people try to manufacture those manually and whatnot for the comments and stuff, hide certain Easter eggs and whatnot in the videos and stuff. And so I try to look at the comments, because sometimes it's not even the video concept or idea. It's something specific that happened that people comment on. So that's usually how I determine the luck or the accident aspect.
Yep. Love it. This one is pretty funny. Was saying, Daryl looking at other stuff online and not listening. I'm literally going through comments so I can bring those comments on as questions. So there you go on that one. I thought that was funny. Okay, here's a great one. What's the most eye-opening thing you learned from Matt about storytelling? I don't know who Matt is. I don't know what that is.
Matt is I mentioned my buddy with
okay. Got it.
Yeah. So he makes some parkour challenges. He'll do voiceover of trying something, and he's also been doing parkour for 18 years like me, and age is slowly catching up to us, and he focuses more on the story and stuff. And sometimes it's not even about the high level skill or anything. It's just what am I what story am I telling here? And I love the way he captures people's audience with his hooks. The hook is so important for shorts, because he's a short form. So his editing style is personally is very hard to, it takes a lot of knowledge of After Effects, Premiere Pro and whatnot. So that really helps. But his hooks are always 10 out of 10 for me, at least. And even though I've made content for 8 years, I still admire and I'm still in shock of his content, and it's beautiful. So his hooks are always good, and I'd say that's something to super focus on for shorts, because you can have a 10 out of 10 story, but if they don't stay, they're not gonna watch it.
Yeah, it's so true. That's so true. For me, I love how you can get inspired by other creators, and sometimes they're in your niche, sometimes they're not. But creators get inspired by other creators and they look, oh, that's so cool how they did X, Y, or Z or whatever that may be. And for me, it might not even be the same format and it might not even be the same niche, but there's might be some elements of, oh, why did they do this? And I try to get all my students to think, hey, when you watch YouTube, you can watch it for fun all the time, but if you really want to be a student of YouTube, you need to ask questions. Why did they choose that thumbnail? Why did they do that title? Why did they use that hook? Or, oh my gosh, that camera angle is really caught me off guard, but it brought me into the story. Why did they do that? And so I really, really love, getting inspiration. And then two, when someone's just dialed in, and it sounds like Matt's just dialed in on shorts, and there's so much that stuff. It's just like they're a master at their craft, and then two, see how consistent they are at things, and then two, when is it a disconnect? Because they might misstep at times and disconnect on certain things, and make note of that. Because what we want to do is be in a position where we're consistently bringing that value proposition and consistently, connecting with our audience. So, all right, well, you down for one more question, and then
Yeah, I'm down as many as you want.
Oh, okay, all right, we'll do a couple more then. Alex was saying, "Hey, I followed you for years. I was just joking." Yeah, I know, Alex. I just wanted to put that up there just because like other people might not think that I'm paying attention, which I am. I'm trying to bring some value in and getting. I mean, there's not all this time that someone that has as many subscribers as Nick has that's willing to come on and give back. And so I want to take full advantage and let you ask the questions there, which is great. Okay, let's see. If you have a question, put it in here. Here is one from Roger Wakefield. Nick, can you teach a 61-year-old plumber to backflip?
Yes, I definitely think like that's possible. Everything, like I've seen people in their 60s start and learn a backflip from scratch. It's just about progressions, and honestly, it's very similar with YouTube too, right? You don't start trying to make Mr. Beast level videos. It's all about progressions, one step at a time. So yeah, I definitely think it's possible.
Yeah, love it, Roger. I know that you lost like 60 pounds over the last little bit, and so and then two, in the beach, you're in that Speedo, and I'm still trying to get that out of my head. But anyway, you can do it. Like that'd be one of the best videos of all time. I think that'd be great. Okay, so Gabe's asking, is there a specific aha when you remember having during the recon phase? What was it? Super curious.
The recon phase is very like is that when you're like looking for ideas and stuff?
Ideation, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ooh, ideation is still one that I struggle with because at least in my niche, I'm like near the top and whatnot. So it's not like I have other creators I have to broaden my, like, I guess that would be my aha moment that I like realize, like, you know what? I need to do something different. If I want to reach an even broader audience, I can't just stick with the same ideas that I'm doing right now. I need to think of new concepts that would still interest my viewer outside of like my niche. Because if you're having a niche, super great, super important and stuff, but if you at a certain point, it is possible that you've had like 90% of the audience from your niche is already watching you, and like then you start expanding.
Yeah, I know our conversation that we had is like, because you brought up the struggle too. It's like, how do I do recon? I mean, I see all the stuff in my niche, and I'm like, well, let's look at something lateral. And realistically, you are a video game in real life, and so it's like what's happening there, and then really understanding, from a video game perspective, not like recreating video games, but like what are the challenges? What are the things that are going on? I think there's a lot of great ways to do it. For me, the recon phase is you can get inspired by anything that you're watching as long as you're intentionally looking. And what I mean by that is like, hey, if you're looking for ideas, like what's grabbing your attention? I see thumbnail ideas, not even remotely close related. And it's not curated in a way that I'm looking for it, but I'm like, oh my God, that's a really good thumbnail, And so I'm like, how do I apply? I always think, how do I apply it to what I'm doing? And I think that's amazing. Chantel is saying, congrats on hitting 26 million subs, Nick. Look at you, man.
Thank you so much.
When
I
you
love
first
it.
started,
Honestly, best job in the world.
yeah, when you first started YouTube and realizing, hey, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to get that silver play button. And now to think, there's not that many people that get that diamond play button and then be literally in the 26 million range, which is fantastic. So
At the beginning, like there was like 2 or 3 parkour athletes that had maybe 100. There was 2, and one of them you mentioned, I think, Ronnie Street Stunts.
yep.
And there was another one, and I believe those were the 2 in the entire world with a gold play button.
Yeah.
They all like there was only 2 at 1 million, so it was never even a dream. It was never even a thought. There's no way I ever thought I was gonna. I thought 1 million was the peak.
Yeah.
So
crazy. It's like I think we limit ourselves based on what we see, but then seeing, oh wait, the audience is so massive out there. When you really look at it, worldwide, you have a worldwide audience, and you're inspiring people all around the world, which is fantastic. And sometimes we limit ourselves naturally on how we create content. But I think the moment that you just like realize, no. We want this out to more and more people, and how do we actually impact more people? That's what I love. I want to give away a couple tickets to VidSummit. VidSummit's happening again. It's our 12th year, October 7th through the 9th. It'll be in Dallas, Texas. Nick, you went to VidSummit last year. I think it was your first time, right? Like you've been in the industry for so long, and it was your first time going to VidSummit. I'd love to hear your perception of how it was for you at VidSummit. You can say all the good, the bad, and the ugly too, if you want to. It's all good. But what was it like for you?
In pure honesty, like no lie, like there was no bad for me. Like to hear about like industry specialists, people that have been in there for like so long, and even like some YouTube employees, right? Like I hope I'm saying this properly, but Todd Beaupre or something like that.
Beaupre, yeah.
So like hearing from them, like honestly, it was great. Even connecting with brands and stuff. Like like there was some booths and stuff on one of the convention levels that like I met with some editing like companies and whatnot, and it was a great experience. And honestly, like there's not even a second thought in my mind that I'm going like this year again.
Yeah. I think for me, when I started, it was I wanted people that are like you, 26 million plus subscribers, and people that maybe have 1 subscriber could go in there, and it's not a fan creator experience, where you're connecting with your fans, but it's more about industry, right? Creator economy, where you felt comfortable walking down and going from session to session. And you might have people notice who you are, and maybe there might be some discussion from there, but it was just like a safe place where creators can go and learn. And then 2, be surrounded by people that get it. They get what it means to be on YouTube. They get what's the challenges that can be, and there's that relatability, and so for me, that's why I started VidSummit. And if you want to come to VidSummit, it's happening every year. We actually sold out our 3rd hotel, which has never been done before, in March. So it's the craziest ever. So I'd encourage you to get your ticket to VidSummit, but also get your accommodations. If not, there's only so much accommodations in Dallas, Texas. You might have to drive in quite a ways. But that's October 7th through the 9th, and it's happening. I'm going to give away 2 tickets, and that's what we've been doing on these live streams. But before we do it, we're going to do a quick little promo on VidSummit, so you can kind of get the feel if you've never been, and then 2, we'll kind of take 2 questions back, and then we'll kind of end the stream. So here we go. Come on now, man. Oh my gosh. So great. For me, I get energy every time I see that. It's like it's a dream for me to do this, like to have a place that we can all gather together and all learn and grow together, and get all that inspiration. And every year it just gives me that energy that I need, and focus. And so really grateful for that, that you're able to attend, and and have a place where creators can come together and really be fed in so many different ways with knowledge. Like there's so many people willing to give, and have a platform where it's very impactful. But what was one of your favorite moments of VidSummit? Like what was that like for you specifically?
I've been to VidCon a couple times, and it's fun, but it's nice to, as you said, it's more like creator focused and less like fan creator focused. So just connecting with different creators and just like the amount of knowledge you get from the panels is amazing, but also just talking real time, like after the panels with creators, was one of my favorite moments, just like sharing what we learned and like bouncing off of each other. Because like I live in Canada, in Ottawa, which is the capital. Not that many creators here, so I don't get that opportunity often. Like it's very rare. So to have that opportunity to bounce off knowledge and just inspiration with other creators was actually my favorite moment.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And that is for me too. It's just like conversations in the hall or going deep dive, like, you're impacted on something, you're having discussions at lunch or whatever it may be. Well, we are going to give a couple tickets away. The first one's going to go to Growing to Live. You are going to come to VidSummit. We're going to get you a ticket. You can either come in person or virtual. And what you need to do is just DM me either on Instagram or X, or you can kind of leave something here. I just made a screenshot of your name, so my team knows to look out for you. And then two, Chantel's here. Chantel, she knows what to do on that side, to make sure that happens. Can't wait to meet you in person. And the next one, we are getting the gang to come here, and so really excited for you guys to come to. We have a ticket for you. That's one ticket. But once again, just DM me either on Instagram or X, or Chantel will do that as well. So really grateful for that. And for all of you that are on the stream, I think for me, just in closing, I'm grateful for you, Nick, for your willingness, number one, to take time with my kids. That's probably the thing that I admire most. You spent some time with one of my kids, Kelton, who loves parkour, loves the content, just is a great kid. But that means a lot for me as a father. And so I just wanted to first off, thank you for that. And then two, your willingness to come on this live stream to share. There's not a lot of creators. They're so into themselves sometimes that they don't see the value of giving back, and just your willingness to come on and give back I'm grateful for that.
Obviously, you make it super easy. You've raised some good kids and stuff. Like I love your son, and honestly, with everything that you've done for the YouTube community and everything, it's also like, how do I say no? Like I can't. I love you've given so much back. I love to help you give back even more.
Well, thank you so much. Well, guys, thank you all for coming on. Thank you, Nick, and go out there and make some great content, and just stay encouraged. Like you never know what's going to happen. Something can pop off for you, or you might figure out a new way to kind of expand the things that you're doing. But I think our goal here is to motivate you and to encourage you that this can be done. I know when Nick first saw that video all those years ago of the first parkour video taking off on YouTube, it inspired him to go do parkour, and also start on the journey that he is here today, which is great. So thank you so much, Nick. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks, everybody.